we got a lot of interest in space travel. It's not like my guides are tamping that down, not in our human forms here. Do we belong out there, Gareth? No, we don't. Our bodies aren't adapted to that, but they're about to be. What we spend our time and focus on trying to understand about getting off the planet, bless your hearts, we're all going there, but it's not going to be in this form. So I kind of ignore what's been going on with SpaceX and trails of satellites. When this solar phenomenon that's going to change the nature of Earth's consciousness comes, it's going to take all that stuff out as well. Now, whether it transmutes the mass, I'm curious to see whether that happens, but all of those electronics are going to go silent because I think the people have a sense of what's about to happen. Their wealth and power is all going to go at once the cord's plugged from no power, your Bitcoin isn't worth a damn thing anymore, is it?
Okay, so you're talking about a digital blackout.
Power blackout.
Welcome to the Endless Possibilities Podcast, where the journey of spiritual awakening and energy healing unfolds.
Hello guys, welcome to the Endless Possibilities Podcast. My name is Gareth and I'm super excited to be introducing today's guest. This is a really exciting one for me. Lowell Johnson. Lowell Johnson's journey has been anything but ordinary. As a seasoned hospitality professional, he spent decades assuming leadership roles in every community he called home, speaking at countless events and chasing the societal measures of success, recognition, and career achievements. You can find all of that neatly outlined on his LinkedIn profile. Deep within, a yearning for something more, a quest for spiritual truth had always been quietly calling. In 2015, a wake-up call came in the form of a TIA attack, redirecting his life's course. That pivotal moment sparked a profound inner journey, leading him down countless rabbit holes in pursuit of deeper understanding. With a passion for nature, travel, and human connection, Lowell found his purpose, evolving far beyond professional achievements. At 67 trips around the sun, Lowell gained a clear sense of self, realizing the illusory nature of the third dimensional world. Like many on the path of awakening, he found himself embracing the ancient process, joining the ranks of countless light workers seeking higher truth. What sets Lowell apart, however, is the extraordinary experience that unfolded in 2020 on the slopes of Mount Shasta. During a hike, a portal opened and he was invited into the subterranean city of Telos by an 8-foot-tall Lemurian named Alex. Telos, a thriving city of 1.5 million beings, is home to ancient Lemurians who retreated to the inner earth thousands of years ago, focusing on their spiritual development to become radiant, physical, immortal beings. Lowell's journey in Telos wasn't just an encounter with extraterrestrial beings, it was a reunion with those who have lived on Earth long before recorded history. The experience raised his vibration and gave him insights that transformed his life. Now, as a protector of Gaia and emissary of Telos, Lowell shares the lessons and truths from his time with the Lemurians. His mission is to inspire humanity with the knowledge that these beings, hidden yet ever present, are awaiting to reconnect with us. Through his retreats and storytelling, Lowell offers a glimpse into the magic of Mount Shasta and Telos, helping others open their hearts to higher truth and deeper connections. His journey is just the beginning of the miraculous wonders yet to unfold. Lowell, welcome to the show. I am super happy to have you here with me today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm always afraid that when we have these exchanges at the beginning, we leave too much of the good stuff on the green room floor. So
Yeah.
I've trained myself to hit the record button earlier, and I can always edit out what we don't need, but that's not going to be the nature of what happens today.
Yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
excited to be sharing this with my audience. So let's jump straight in. I mean, let's just briefly, I know you've probably spoke about yourself hundreds of times, but just briefly for the people who don't know you, just, 2 or 3 minutes of your past
Oh boy. Well,
before all the craziness started.
I'm a human being just like the rest of you. I had, chased all the things we were conditioned to chase, ended up the service to others being part of me played itself out in the hospitality industry. So I did that for 40 years. Along the way, there was a chunk of 10 years where I had always been fascinated with computers from like the 80s and in the 90s. And that there was a point at which I had to relocate for family purposes in the 90s. And I went back to Florida without a job. So I just called on my skills fixing computers for my neighbors, upgrading their components back then. And when that happens in the small community I live in, if you know anything about computer, they believe you know everything.
Mm.
And so you're not going to tell them you don't, you're going to learn what it needs, they need. And it just blossomed into something that I didn't expect. My life seemed to be kind of moving along in all 8 cylinders when during this time I had been offered a job back in hospitality. And I still had this little IT business that I was outsourcing some work and some of it didn't need to be done. Well, just technology, once it's plugged in, it works. You just have to maintain it. I had that and got like another VP level job at a resort nearby. So, man, I got two sources of six-figure income a year and I thought things were going well. My wife at the time had been going through chemotherapy, and she had been through two bouts of cancer already, and we're sneaking up on the third one. Well, when Hurricane Charlie hit Florida, on the west coast of Florida, where I was living at the time, and I didn't leave, everything was wiped out. My job at the resort was gone because the resort was going to be closed for a minimum of 6 months. My IT business was unsustainable because I can't work out of the house, and I gave my clients to somebody else so they wouldn't lose their stuff. And my wife was on her last leg, so everything was gone. Everything. And I had to start all over again. So I did. And to accelerate things, I moved around the country doing some consulting hospitality work. COVID came along during the very last consulting gig I was going to have, and I was in Baton Rouge. My intent when I left was I'd found a house I was going to buy in Vegas because most of the companies I was filling in for were all based there anyway. So I figured I might as well live there. It's not like they're going to farm me out and send me to this place for 3 months and that place for 4 months. I was willing to do that. COVID kicked in and none of that happened. So after lockdown, I just need to get back out into nature. And my inclination was to head toward the southwestern United States, where there's a multitude of national parks between Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. And it was still early enough, still in the midst of all that chaos, that the national parks were questionable whether they were even open or not. And so when I sat back to think about it, the very next thought in my head, and I didn't plan it, there was Mount Shasta. Well, from where I was, that's a 4-hour drive. Great. I can get there in the morning or an afternoon and be there. But I had driven by it a few times. I kind of knew something about it, but not enough to say I was knowledgeable about the area. I can't say that, but I was being guided there for a purpose. And looking back on it, it's plain to me that my vibration was pretty high when I got there to begin with. I had been through.
Hi, guys. I hope you are enjoying this incredible conversation with Lowell. This is just a quick request to those who are new and not yet subscribed. Hit subscribe. Subscribing to our channel lets YouTube know that we are a worthwhile program on their platform, and they push us out to new audiences through the algorithm. Also, hitting like, maybe even dropping a comment also goes a long way to helping us. Thank you very much. Now back to the show with Lowell.
I had a mini stroke late in 2015, and it seemed that's the point at which I can pinpoint where all of my awareness changed. By the time I got to Shasta, meditation had become a regular part of my being. And so vibrating with the things around me, I'm pretty empathic, and I had to learn to block things out to protect my aura, you know what I mean? By the end of the second week, because I'd intended to stay by 2, I didn't want to go anywhere. And I only left 5 weeks at the end of 5 because I had to be back in Santa Rosa, or I wouldn't have left then either. By the end of the 5 weeks, because it was the last weekend that I was invited in to Telos, I can tell that my frequency and my vibration had also adjusted in the time I was at Shasta. And I believe they were preparing me for this real contact. That's my story, and I'll stick with it. Then from Shasta, I came back a year later and was introduced to a hybrid, a person who, is a part human and part ultra terrestrial, however you want to be able to see that or put it into terms yourself. I met Kumu unexpectedly. I didn't know her before I met her, but she clearly knew a lot of things about me. And over a weekend, at the very end of July that year, she had shown up at a place I was going to spend the weekend at. We got to know each other during the course of the day. And toward the end of the day, she went over on a part of the deck where we were all sitting, and she started to take some photographs around some large plants that were there. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and she looks over in my direction, and she says, "Come on over here." And so when I got over next to her, she said, "I want you to stand by this plant. I want you to put your arms around it. And I'm going to give you this iliome, and I want you to just chant it while you're just focusing on the tree." So I did what she'd asked for about 30 or 45 seconds, and I began to feel silly, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just stopped and I turned around. Well, by that time, she was done with whatever she was photographing. And we went inside the house so that we were out of the sunlight and she could show me the pictures she had taken. Now, earlier in the day, she'd shown me dozens of dimensional images she had captured with her phone in different places with different circumstances. This one she showed me was first in the plant. I could see these, God, they look like color streaks. I knew those were light beings. And she had 3 pictures of light beings first. Then when I came into the frame, this light being is coming out of the plant, like in my third eye and out the back. And in the next one, since that encounter with Kumu, I have always had this frequency. I don't know what else to call it, Gareth, so I'm going to call it a frequency that when I'm getting downloads, as I was advised I would, it always hits in this part of my being, right behind almost my ear. I can make it louder or softer, but I can't make it go away ever. And that's how I know I'm connected. Well, in this last image, there's a beam of light going to that very place that you can't miss. And so, okay, all this makes sense. So that was Friday. And she leaves. Now, she had come to this place with an entourage, and she travels with people that way. Kuma's about my age. Her family's Hawaiian, so they've been there for generations. She had students that would travel with her, 2 or 3 of them. And then she had a couple of colleagues that would also travel with her. One was a friend that she had met long ago, and one was a psychologist who 10 years ago had heard about her, met her, and was studying these kinds of phenomena. Well, they became instant friends. And she's been traveling with Kumu ever since and documenting and witnessing these things that have gone on around her. When she left Friday, I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know her, didn't know what any of this was about, so I just kind of put it on the back burner. The next morning, I was there to, help the people I was staying with. We were going to work on their website, needed a little update, so I figured we could do that. Well, Mid-morning on Saturday, the phone rang, and it's Kumu. Oh, she's coming back. Now, no one knows why, but she's coming back. And when she returned, there was just one student with her that day. She brought Chinese takeout for like 24 people, and she had these carrying cases. And inside the carrying cases were these artifacts that she had been advised where to find. Now, she didn't go out and find them all. She had the coordinates of where to find each one of these items and sent people out on her behalf and said, look, I don't care what else you find there, but this item, I need you to bring this back to me. Well, 3 of them were ceremonial pipes. One was like a little medallion. One was like a light and energy weapon, if you wanted to see it that way. And one was a portable time machine. So she showed us all of this stuff. And again, I'm just amazed at what's been put in my path. Who gets to see any of that stuff, Gareth? Very few people. Who gets to hold those things? Even fewer. And who gets to film them and document them to share with others? Even fewer than that. And we weren't just going to look at these things. Oh no, we were going to ceremony. She had brought some buds, some cannabis from her Nana's plantation in Hawaii. And she had brought a screen and everything we needed because we were going to use these pipes. And then toward the end of the day, this location we were at had a spiral made entirely out of Andara crystals, huge stones, energetic like crazy. Well, toward the end of the day, she asked me and Mickey, the host, to come down, stand in the middle of this circle. And she was filming or photographing things from behind us. There were other light being encounters, big time this time, and multidimensional pictures of it looked like at one point I was holding something like a little animal. Well, I wasn't holding anything in this plane, but in it, it looked to me like a baby dinosaur. And then there was like a whisper of something that said, it's a serpent. That's Shiva rising to protect you. And you see in the picture this blue swoop over to where my hand is. So all of this energetics had been happening. And I still, by the end of this day, I still didn't know what any of this meant. The day before, after I had some time to digest it, it seems as though whatever that happened on Friday, whatever that interaction she photographed with light beings, I met some condition that caused them to come back the next day. And additional interactions were going to take place. Now, 10 days after that happened, I think I'm due to return to Shasta. There is a conference that year that I agreed to present at. She's going to be there the week before. So I thought, well, this will be great. Maybe we can find some one-on-one time because I didn't know really anything about her. I didn't know who she was, how she came to be. So I was going to learn that the Thursday before this week, I was going to participate there. And while we were in Shasta together, she had invited me on Friday to participate in a ceremony there's a location, energetic, with a huge medicine wheel on it. And inside this medicine wheel, there's Russian pyramid, energetic on the property. That, oh yeah, this thing's portal for sure. Well, the first one was there. She invited me to come along. There were a couple other people from Miami that had come to visit the mountain and, process, whatever they wanted to process. And she invited me to go along. Now, I think I'm a tag along. When we get to the pyramid site, there's 4 corners in it, and there are 3 others. I'm the 4th chair. Now, I didn't expect to come and participate, but I did. Those same artifacts that she had shown and shared with me when we were in the other part of California earlier, she brought those that day too. But I noticed she wasn't handing these to anybody else. Nobody was handling them that day. She was going to show them to you, but no one got to do what I did that day. And she had a few others that I had not seen yet. She had one crystal skull that was blue. She claimed it was Andara. I can't tell you if it was or wasn't. All I can tell you is this was a blue crystal skull, and it was amazing. So she had given me a little token form of like an Egyptian gold bird. You know what those little things
Yeah.
look like. And she said, I want you to hold this during the ceremony. Well, during the ceremony, I'm off to somewhere I had been before in Egypt. And during my part, I see myself lifting off the top of the Great Pyramid to expose the halls of Amenti for all of you humans because you're ready. No longer needed to be hidden. And that's what my vision was. So this is Friday night, right? We get back to a place where these people from Miami were staying. It's about midnight. She was due to leave the next morning, Saturday. And around a little before midnight, when we got back there, she said, there's one more ceremony I want you to participate with us tomorrow. Meet us here at noon and we'll all drive out together. So I was there a little before noon the next day. We drove to an area just north of Weed, which is, the greater Mount Shasta area. There's a road that heads off to Klamath. And along this road, there's freaking nothing. Well, there's a parcel out there that a group had acquired for a veterans memorial park. And within the park, there were some 9 or 10 incredible sculptures, figures. They all looked alien to me. They're all 9 or 10 feet tall. And so when I saw it at first, I'm like, God, this looks not creepy, but almost eerily familiar. There were 4 cars, 12 people that went out to this place. And again, I think I'm a tag along. No, this ceremony's for me. It's by the time we get there, it's almost 3 in the afternoon. When we got there, she dispatched her people to prepare the area, just ask permission energetically to conduct what we're going to conduct. They're busy. And in the meantime, she says, okay, I want you to take your chair and see that statue over there. I want you to go over there and wait for me. Now, she had given me a little more medicine to go and get prepared. And she said, I'll be over to give you the rest of the instructions as soon as I'm done with these people. Well, when she came over, she informed me what was going to take place. She said, I want you to get in your mind what it is that you want to get out of this session. And there were 2 things. One was that human side of me, I needed something more tangible about those light people I'd seen. And to me, there was a connection between emerald tablets and crystal skulls. And I wanted that answered for me. And in my mind, if what I'm beginning to be told, shown, is true, then if one light body shows up, I'll believe it all. I'll do whatever it is that you want me to do. Just guide me in the right direction. Well, 4 showed up. Before she photographed it, she said, I want you to give me your phone. Because the ones that she'd taken before were clearly with hers and she'd sent them to me. She said this way, they're always going to be in your cloud. No one can ever say that they got altered some way. They're always going to sit on your phone. And they were freaking incredible. It wasn't just the light beings that were in the neighborhood. It was a craft that was spinning over me during all of this that she captured as well.
Wow.
My takeaway is, yes, Lowell's in there, and there's a physical interaction between me and the light beings because I feel this energetic charge while all this is happening. The takeaway is that I'm not going to be the only one. I'm the first one. And the rest of you should get the idea in your heads that you should be in the picture because you will be. That's more important to me. I'll tell you about Shasta all day long. And for those of you that vibrate as a Lemurian, welcome to the team. It's real. I'm here to validate it. It won't be long before you can validate it for yourself. But the message about interactions with higher dimensional beings in a physical form where we can see it, touch it, feel it, to me, that was more important for people to know. Because that wasn't just for me. That's for everybody.
Wow.
I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah, I mean that you've gave us a lot to digest
Jeez.
with that. That's one of the things I notice about you, Lo. You have incredible energy for interviews. It just comes.
How can you not be excited about that kind of contact? Even when, maybe the rest of the world doesn't think anything's going on because they hadn't heard from me. That is not the way that the world is right now. It's so energetically charged that if you're tacked into it, you're just, it takes a while to assimilate new conditions. And we're going through an evolution that's just crazy right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say to that.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question because I didn't really know the significance of Mount Shasta, right? I had heard about it. I had heard it was the root chakra of the world, but it wasn't until I came across your video last week and I started watching it and listening, and I was like, "Oh my God, is this for real? Like, is there a civilization living beneath that mountain?" Can you talk to the audience about what happened to you on that mountain?
Yeah, I can. It's exciting for me to hear you get excited because look, I was at the same place. I knew about the same amount about Shasta before I went there as you just claimed to know.
Yeah.
It wasn't energetic, and we didn't have some inclination about curiosities about that type of thing. But it does my heart good to see another tribe member show up and kind of react the same way I did to conditions that I was not really clueless about, but one that I hadn't spent the kind of time I like to be. And I like to be outside. I love the mountains. The time I spent in Colorado, every weekend I was somewhere else on a mountain, and I didn't need anybody else.
Mm.
It just, nature called and I answered. So Shasta was calling in a different way. It wasn't just nature that said, "Hey, I got some really quiet places that you'd enjoy and some lots of water features." There was metaphysical aura around that place that once you're there for a week, you'll begin to feel it and put it into perspective. It wasn't until the end of the second week when I was there that all that came into perspective. I had seen during the course of the week, there was an older couple about my age, and I saw them from time to time while they were hiking in areas that I was in too. Well, I could see by Friday, they were kind of saying their goodbyes to the mountain in the same place we all like to go at the top. And they had remarked on how they physically felt so charged. And it was at that moment that I put all that together. I was in my mid 60s here while I'm traveling to Shasta. And I was hiking every day, Gareth, every day, like I was in my early 20s. And normally, somebody my age, and it's not that I'm in horrible shape, but I'm not a hiker like that. I was hiking every day and did it again. Elevation changes every day. It wasn't until the end of the second week that I finally looked back at my behavior and went, "How come I'm not tired? How come I don't need a day to recover in between the days I'm hiking? I just want to go out and do it all over again." And that is when there is something physically palpable about that mountain. If you vibrate anywhere near her, you're going to pick up on that exchange. And when I went the first time, I didn't know what I was looking for. I concluded at the end, I was sensing and seeking out these energetic places, and I found them. After you go back to them, once you've been introduced to those conditions, they're easier to find. When you go back the next year, easier to find, and oh, there's more. They were never meant to be secret. They're all just protecting themselves until the time that people are ready. And then it isn't going to be just one place you can go and connect. There'll be lots of them.
Mm.
That's what I found.
And are they vortexes on the mountain?
Yes.
Okay. And you just happen to come across them, feel the energy, and then what? Jot down the locations.
Well, I hadn't at first. That didn't occur to me until after I visited the first time, because there's a feature on your phone. If you have an
Yeah.
iPhone, you have a compass.
Yeah.
If you take a screenshot of it, there's your latitude and longitude. So you know exactly where you were. And I didn't have that information going in the first time. I recognized that I was a light worker by definition before I went to Shasta. And I understood very clearly what my role as a light worker is. And it's not to go to the mountain to get something. Never mind, there's always an energetic exchange, and you will receive something. My job is to anchor additional light wherever I go. And so that was what I was doing in these areas where it just felt good. And then when you looked at the areas, you'd see these anomalies where this tree's got a lot of green around it and rocks that are around it like this was formed, but it wasn't formed. You saw that too many times to ignore it. And you knew there had to be some energetic intention behind that. The day that I ended up going into Shasta, I had found a succession of 3 of these places. And one, I had stopped, planted my energy, and then I saw a place over to my left that, well, looked a little bit, higher elevation. So let's go try there. And when I finally got to that space, there was one more, almost right against the mountain, and there were 3 boulders that kind of came out and made like a little, well, I don't know, courtyard, if you want to call it, enough room for you to get into and sit in. And so I did. I started by anchoring my light, and I looked way off in the distance, and I can see the parking lot where people are, where I came from. But once I would have sat down that area, no one would know anything about where I was or what I was doing. I had just finished some water and some grapes, and I was listening to music in my earpods with my back up against, the mountain. My phone died. The music stopped, I should say, first. And when I pulled my phone out from my back pocket where I was keeping, I looked at it, there was no power. So while I'm trying to power it back up again, I feel a breeze from behind me. And when I turn around to look, there's a freaking hole where I was just leaning against. And when I stood up to look at it, this thing's at least a foot taller than I am, kind of rounded out. And I can see into this. There's like a little grade that goes up and then it goes downward. And into this dark space, when your eyes start to get adjusted from the sunlight behind you and what is being opened up, God, it looks like there's somebody down there. And it's the moment I think that it looks like there's somebody there, I hear, "Would you wish to see Telos?" And the rest of it was the journey that day.
So, for those who don't know what Telos is, do you want to briefly fill us in?
Yes. Well, you have to have a conception of who the Lemurians were and, what role they played and where they were on the planet and what race they represented. And be mindful that during the time that not only Lemuria, but when Atlantis was in form, the land masses on the planet were very different. We really can't look at a globe and superimpose where we think they were, because all of the land masses were different. But there were catastrophes that were about to besiege the earth for a variety of reasons. Some of it was cosmic perfection. Some of it was the stewards that were here on the earth did not treat the earth in a symbiosis way. We failed to really see how things were. And it wasn't the Lemurians so much. Man, they were tagged into nature and they understood that. But there is a faction of humanity through their evolution. It seemed to be earmarked through the Atlanteans. And that's not to say that the Atlanteans as a whole were dark. They were not. They were not. And if we think that the Lemurians are waiting in the wings with technologies to share with us, so are the Atlanteans. There is that element that's here as well that is waiting to share what we have when we can teach them, show them that we're capable of having it without going through the results from the last time, when in those implosions, everything changed. Souls were lost, land masses changed. Well, of course, there were those that had precognition of what was to come. And they started to make preparations. And they had found at the time, most of Western North America was part of Lemuria. It's not unusual for us to think now that Shasta and Sedona share similar energies because it's all Lemurian former territories. Telos was that territory on North America and now parts that are no longer above the surface of the Pacific Ocean. So finding, first of all, an elevated place like Mount Shasta with caverns beneath it that were suitable, they petitioned the Galactic Federation to be able to tell us where it is. So the Telos we hear about and refer to now is the capital city of the Lemurians beneath Mount Shasta. But Telos was a territory. And so, again, for those people who have been to the Southwest, especially in the Sedona area, and think that you've tapped on some familiar energies, you have. There are former Lemurian temples that are in the Sedona area as well, if you energetically plug into them. And Sedona taught me another lesson, that I believe, Gareth, that these places I was visiting was the source of the activity I was experiencing. I didn't realize until I went to Sedona that I'm looking at the same craft in the same sky that I've seen before. The light orbs and the light beings that showed up in Shasta are also showing up in Sedona. They come to where people that vibrate at the right levels are. It's not geography, although there is certainly something to these areas that are already at higher vibrations. They're connected to our souls. So if you connect here, if I was to travel to Great Britain, Romania, I would have the same experiences with the same beings. And I say that because that's true for all of us. I'm no different as a human being than any of the rest of anybody who's going to hear this. So when I tell you about these extraordinary experiences I've had, these multidimensional barriers are fading away. If you don't really sense the separation of the timelines between old Earth and new Earth, I know for certain you all sense something's going on. I'm here to kind of put that into focus for you. It's absolutely happening. And it's just a matter, I don't believe personally that we're going to wait until 30, 40, 30, 20, 30, 2040. Garrett, in my being, I don't think, and I've said this for a while, so I'll continue to repeat it because the energies are compounding over the last few days. I don't think we're going to see the number 2027 on a calendar before things change. And then we won't be counting things in linear mode anymore. Our bodies won't be these carbon things anymore. And your bodies have been adapting to cellular changes over the last several decades. Unbeknownst to us, these bodies are shifting because Earth is shifting. And she's not shifting because we all kumbaya together. She's on her own cosmic course. And that was the reset that Earth has been waiting for. When I started to come into this awareness of, higher dimensional planes and contact with it, and the idea of the law of one, and we're all connected to one another, you finally start to put into perspective. I'm beginning to see things I didn't see before. And there's a lot of tribes showing up confirming the same thing. It's hard until you have a few of these experiences to make it not sound like a story. About a year after I had heard myself talk about Telos, and I didn't really open up to tell the story about what I'd heard, within weeks. I was looking for somebody else that could help me understand what the hell happened to me. And I was, kind of dropping a seed in places where I thought it would resonate. It just takes time for things to assimilate before this new energy comes into you at all that you can make sense of. And I'm pretty convinced that I was just shown this way first so I could assist others. We're not going to have the same journeys, I'm pretty sure, but enough of what's going on energetically, is going to resonate with everybody. And I'm just as excited to hear everybody else's experiences because they're extraordinary.
Yeah, I've no doubt that I've been led to you like for a reason. We spoke before we started recording, and the whole concept of visiting Mount Shasta was just presented to me a week ago, and I googled. I went onto YouTube, and you were the first video that came up, and I watched and I listened, and I was like, oh my god, I have to interview this guy. And just even listening to your, I could feel the energy, the connection to the mountain, to the story. Do you want to tell us what happened when you went into the mountain?
Sure. I love to tell it. And for those of that never heard it, you do need to hear it. So here we go. Once I heard that call, that whatever charge of nervousness and excitedness all at the same time kind of, waned away, I was absolutely interested. So I started to make my way down this. Now, looking back, I know that was clearly a former lava tube, which, they're all over in the mountain. And as I got closer to whoever this being was, at first I thought it was somebody about my height. I'm 6 feet tall. That's what I thought I saw in whatever dim light was available. But as my eyes adjusted to different light conditions and I got closer to this person, being, yeah, he wasn't my height. He was at least 2 heads taller than I was as I got closer. He was wearing this white, it's, I don't know that I'd call it a robe or a smock, but he had something kind of draped over him. He had some colored ribbons on his garment. I could only speculate that either this was kind of some kind of Lemurian bling and it made it look pretty, or is this indicative of some, rank that he holds? I didn't know. But as I got closer, I can tell you, these beings are flawless. He happened to have, long blonde hair. He looked very Scandinavian to me. He
So
sounded
humanoid.
almost oh yes,
Yeah.
but not a carbon humanoid. His presence was flawless. His face was flawless. There were no wrinkles like we have. I have no idea how old he was or wasn't. All I can tell you is that here is a light body. Here is a crystalline form as opposed to this carbon thing that wears out in 80 to 100 years. They don't wear out. These avatars go on and they've learned how to protect themselves. Now, I should also say that as long as I've told this story, trying to understand humanity's evolution, the Lemurians are also evolving. They're not standing still in their spiritual advancement either. So there are things that are coming to them as well. But as I've said, this veil between the third dimension and the dimensions that they occupy is thinning. And so, where they were reluctant to make their presence known, when this happened, I was looking for every account I could find. I spent days on the internet just trying to understand what I could about this phenomenon, the location. And it looked like the last interactions between people in Mount Shasta, in the town, and the Lemurians ended like in the 40s. They used to come in and trade for things, and then all of a sudden they stopped coming. Well, if you put the timeline that I now understand into place, and you understand where we started to go south, it was around the time that we were given the technology for atomic energy and we weaponized it. And we showed them in a free will sovereign planet where humanity was still a little experiment. We were given the option to evolve on our own. And the thinking was humanity's hands off, allow them to evolve on their own until then, until we dropped the bomb in Japan twice and showed them what we were willing to do to this cosmic asset that's not ours, Earth. That's when they began to step in. That's when the call went out and the first indigos started to come in their incarnations in the early 50s. And then from then, they just continued to come through. Oh, I lost my train of thought. It'll come back.
Sure. So okay, you were invited into the mountain.
Oh, yeah. Let's get back to the actual day. So he said, you can call me Alex. And I said, well, that'll be easy to remember. That's my son's name. And he said, yeah, we know about your son. Just follow me. Well, he began to tell me about Telos, about how it's governed, about who Ra and Ranamu, the king and queen, are, how many levels it has, what's on each level. And just about the time we got to the end of this exchange, whatever incline we were walking down toward, there was a light source down at the bottom. And as we got closer, it got brighter. Well, as we got closer to the bottom, whatever this is, I turned around to look behind me to see where we'd come from, and there was no light. It won't be until months later that I really understand the notion of a portal, and I just passed through one. When we got down to the base of this area, it kind of opened up into a bigger, I call it a staging area because I don't know what else to call it. It's big. And when you first walk into it, there are lava tubes directly in front of us. And immediately to our left, there was this platform. I thought it measured like 6 foot by 6 foot, and it looked like there were two almost console seats on it. There was another one over to the left over there, and there was another one over there to the right. And by the time I'm finished looking at all of this, Alex had made his way to the other side and had sat down and indicated for me to sit next to him. And as soon as my butt hit that seat, this thing levitated and off we went. So we're headed into one of the lava tubes, and he's continuing to tell me what to expect. But while I'm there, I expect these 3D physical sensations of like when you're moving, you feel wind go by you. Yeah, you didn't feel any of that. And that you're moving. As we're coming through to the other end of the tube and we see the light from the other end coming at us, now you start to see there's crystals and rocks embedded into the walls of this thing. And every time you moved another inch, it would change the light refraction. It was like a kaleidoscope you were in the middle of, and I didn't want it to end. It was gorgeous. But when we opened up to the other side, we're on the first level of Telos. So he takes this hovercraft, for lack of a better term, and brings it up to a level where you've seen cityscape illustrations, photographs. That's what I'm looking at. The city is circular in orientation. There's crystal buildings everywhere with a huge white pyramid in the middle. And there's a capstone at the top of it, which today happens to be white. I only mention that because I'll learn after this trip that the capstone picks up different colors depending on the day of the week. And the community adjusts their frequency based on that light. It's reflected in what they wear, what they do, what they say. But the other thing, when I tried to look up, because it was like daylight. So where's the source of light? Where's the sun streak? Well, there's none of that. I believe I'm underground, but I can't see the top of whatever this is. And yet this is lit like daylight. Later, look back on it and recognize that I didn't see any shadows from whatever the light was being cast as well. When we finish in this area, the hovercraft comes down a little bit lower. So as we're moving through this area, I see, pods of Lemurians. There's 2 here, there's 3 over there. And the few that as we're going past that I can make eye contact with. Immediately, it was like, I know them. And more curiously, they know me.
Wow.
The next thing I know, we're on the 3rd level, and this is where their hydroponic gardens are located. I saw what looked like 7 acres of the most technologically advanced hydroponic gardens I've ever seen. Um, Not a lot of soil, crystals to charge the water that irrigated these things. But what I was most curious about was even what I saw in front of me, I'm still thinking in terms of three-dimensional conditioning on feeding your carbon body and
Right.
what it needs to maintain itself. I looked at this and tried to understand how it fed them. So, what I understand about the day that the flood actualized and the transfer from Lemurian pockets to Mount Shasta took place, the preparations had been made for 2 million. Well, 25,000 made it. Now, somewhere along the way, when this story came to me a few years ago, there were like 1.2 million Lemurians in some form on the planet. And more recently, that number is more like 4.8. So now I'm trying to figure out, well, how does that, even if these crops perpetuate themselves quickly, how does it feed all those people? Well, and that's when those aren't carbon bodies, Lowell. They eat because they like to, not because their body is contingent on the nourishment it needs to, maintain your body. And that was like a shockwave. Oh, now I see how this could feed everybody. We have yet to really understand things. Our human brain isn't really ready to compute yet, but these things are starting to be presented to us because they're going to become our reality very soon.
Well, Lowell, there are people who are breatharian, right? There are humans who do not need food.
Correct. Yes, you
That's
can do
happening.
that.
Yeah.
But again, our carbon bodies aren't really designed to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Where we're heading, those bodies are. And I should point out as well, because we got a lot of interest in space travel. And it's not like my guides are tamping that down. Oh, we're all going to space travel. If we're astral traveling, we do some of that now, but our actual physical forms are going to be able to go into space too, not in our human forms here. Do we belong out there, Gareth? No, we don't. Our bodies aren't adapted that, but they're about to be. And so, what we spend our time and focus on trying to understand about getting off the planet, bless your hearts, we're all going there, but it's not going to be in this form. So, I kind of ignore what's been going on with SpaceX and trails of satellites that are just there's so much debris around the planet aside from the satellites that kept being pushed out there. When this solar phenomenon that's going to change the nature of Earth's consciousness comes, it's going to take all that stuff out as well. Now, whether it transmutes the mass, I'm curious to see whether that happens, but all of those electronics are going to go silent. And that's what there's all kinds of more distractions because I think the people have a sense, those that are in charge of what's about to happen, and they're hanging on for all they're worth.
So,
Their wealth and power is all going to go at once the cord's plugged from no power. Yeah, your Bitcoin isn't worth a damn thing anymore, is it?
okay, so you're talking about a digital blackout.
Power blackout.
Okay.
Our technology is going to be useless because the sun is going to disable all of that grid work. And there's no one coming to fix it. New Earth already has her solution. And those people that are moving into that plane, you're good. It's the rest of them that didn't get it that's going to be here to watch the rest of the entropy take place on the third dimensional form. And they still have their third dimensional lessons they have not yet played out. And if you're watching some of this chaos going around, they're building up a lot more karmic stuff that they're never going to clear. And I just send them love and light. It's not my journey. It's certainly one that they chose, but it's not the prevailing notion for Earth here. In a few years, everything is going to be different.
Okay. Okay. And the Lemurians, are they going to help? Is it going to be their time to come out and help humanity?
Yes, that's exactly what they've been doing. They have a soft spot for us, or they wouldn't have reached out at all, not even to me. What's the point? They withdrew to protect their energy long ago, and they continue to do so for reasons that I fully understand now. And I'm going to share something with you that I have not put out on a broadcast yet. Because when I learned this information, and I got it from Kumu, so I've known it since the year after I visited Telos, I really didn't have a comprehension of how our little crazy hijinks here in the third dimension can vibrate and pattern into other dimensions, but they do. I was ignorant about that. And I just thought that those things were bulletproof from third dimensional. They're not. And so that's why they withdrew to protect their energies. They're here to share everything that they did because they are service to others being at their core. Their lives are to inspire, the next evolution in their spiritual journeys. That's what they're here for. And they're here for the rest of the planet as well. But now I'll tell you what Kumu told me. That yes, there's still a core of Lemurians that are here in Shasta, but the majority of them had been moved to another nearby planet. She said 11 years ago from the time she told me that story. So that was like 2021, she told me. So about 2010, the majority of the Lemurians were moved off the planet for this very purpose, that humans were volatile and they're going to protect their energies because Gaia is coming out of this. And based on what I was telling you back in the green room and our little hope for humanity, I feel much better about that because I saw what took place to assist humanity in their evolution, because it wasn't like our DNA hadn't been dicked with. Things are on the right course. And I had been convinced that during this incarnation of mine, I would be present for the shift. I'm about to turn 72 to be official, and the clock is ticking. So, one, enjoy all this 3D time you can because the planet is beautiful and it has many things to offer, but her form's about to change. Are you going with her or are you not? It's your choice.
Wow. Okay. So there's a new Earth forming, and it seems that the individuals whose vibration has risen will sort of gravitate into that new Earth, and those that aren't will stay behind in what? In some sort of like virtual reality of that, or
Same stuff they're in right now.
Same stuff.
They're just going to continue on the way that they're living their life right now because this is third dimensional Earth. The fourth dimensional part of her is, here's where we talk about the separation of timelines. It's happening. And now we're straddling dimensions. You really can't speak about those things in higher dimensions till you've experienced them. But you speak about them very eloquently. So we know we're straddling these dimensions right now, or we wouldn't be able to have these insights and report back on them. But we do. And that's just increasing because every time we find another tribe member, they just add to the mix, and we all see and feel where we're going. You can see those people that have no compassion, that are greedy and power hungry. They're going to continue on their way and not realize that this is what destroyed Mars. This is what destroyed Venus, that kind of patriarchal energy where I don't see my connection to everybody else. I just want what I want. That's fading away. That date that I gave you of July 1st, 2008 was significant in that from that point on, humanity's DNA for any lovely soul that was being incarnated after that is with their perfected DNA with a little upgrade, because we have been taking in some other light forms from the cosmos preparing humans for the next form. Look, all of the higher beings in the universe are here for humanity. They want to see this experiment succeed. And humanity's really never been given that opportunity, have they? Knowing what you know now, our DNA had been dicked with. So, this idea that these little sovereign beings in human form with free will can chart their own courses, well, we really weren't, but we are now. And so I have great hope for where we're going. And I see the transition from, everyone that's been on the planet now in that form since 2008, born into it. That doesn't speak to those of us that somehow we got it and our DNA repair came along. Oh, yeah, you're hearing the people that you communicate with. You hear their perspectives from that one. So we know that this is authentic, it's genuine. It gets easier to blot out the white noise, although we don't enjoy it, because now we see the real path that's going on. And those higher beings before, look, it wasn't that planets hadn't come and gone and that the creator hadn't decided, yeah, this didn't work out, we'll just blow it up and start all over in. That has happened. But I've been assured in more than one channeling session, that is not the plan for humanity. That they really want this experiment, and lots of the galaxy is watching what's going on here.
Wow,
It's just time.
That's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is.
My mind is blown.
Yeah, that didn't come to me overnight. Believe me, it's been a process. But I guess in the end, I just want to illustrate that we're not done with that negative influence that was here to begin with. But it is evolving out. And being backfilled by just people that already have their DNA perfected for New Earth. You've talked about it in your children, and what you see in them, well, that's that whole next generation of those that actually, if you want to see it this way, came to assist us to come to terms with it, because I just sense that their DNA wasn't as handcuffed as ours was when we came into these incarnations. They just know more about what they're supposed to know about.
Well, I mean,
don't they?
Well, yes, absolutely. So I work with people like with spiritual awakening, right? And there is a mass awakening happening on the planet at the moment, but it seems that the younger generation, they just get it. It just seems to happen so naturally for them. Whereas the older generations, they've been conditioned. Maybe it's something to do with the DNA, been tampered with, that it holds them back. But the younger generation, they just are so natural. It's
I
incredible to
believe
see.
they have strands of DNA activated that we're getting reactivated. But we had to go through the incarnation for that. They came into this scenario with that already perfected. So they have a vision of those elevated things that you and I are growing into. They came with that. Wonderful. I just love to see it because it's validation for me. It's one more thing that tells me I'm right, because look at the younger generation coming up. They see the perspective I see. And I was conditioned just the same way as all my friends around me. Something just happened inside of me that made me start to look at things differently, where their conditioning did not break that down yet. So let's finish the trip.
Sure. Go ahead.
Once we were done on the third level, then we came back up to the main level. And there was a building that caught my eye on the way. It was kind of circular when I saw it. And that's where this craft landed. So as we're facing it, it's a round building, but made by panels of crystals. And the opening to it would be, in my human mind terms, the same as like French doors. So the width of two doors.
Okay.
But on this panel to the left and on this panel to the right, there seems to be some inscriptions. And they look like really elaborate codes. Well, when I first come into Shasta, that first day I arrived, and it was really too late for me to begin to explore and do any hiking, I walked through the main street, and there's one little clever shop called Blue Star Child Gallery. Haruko's this cute little Japanese artist who's gifted beyond measure. And these illustrations were light codes. Now, when you saw these codes that she drew, hand drew, no rulers, no curvature tools, they're 3 feet wide by 10 feet long. It takes her months to draw them, but they're perfectly symmetrical. When this is all over, it's just crazy. So the first day I was there, remember this is during COVID, when I walked into the shop, and it wasn't easy or hard because in the window, she's got lots of these little colored illustrations. It just kind of draws you into the space. I saw these shoes in front of me, and I thought, oh, that must be for COVID. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll come back when I can enjoy this more. But it was when I was turning to leave that I saw that first illustration, that big, that wide in front of me. And then I noticed around the room, there were more, lots more. In this space, she's got 3 rooms, including, you could see how this was a retail space. And in the very back, it was like a little office space, like 8 by 8. So when I came back a couple days later, it turned out that because she's Japanese, it's customary to take your shoes off before you go into sacred space, not to cover your shoes because COVID. Anyway, when I made my way back through these other rooms and I got back to the back room, in that back room that I kind of described as what must have been an office, there were 5 of these huge things in that room, and you were just overwhelmed by the energy in it. So I think I had 3 crystals on me, and I put one below below 3 of them. And I went out and I asked her permission because the only other thing in this room was like a little pillow. I said, would you mind if I meditated in there a little bit? And she goes, that's what it's for. And so I thought I would be in there for 10 or 15 minutes. Well, I don't know, closer to a half an hour. I came out and I'm in tears. It was so overwhelming what I experienced in there that I just carried out that, man, I felt like if I was illuminating when I came in, this just went to a whole nother level. The ones that I saw that day in Telos were exactly the same ones on the left side of the doorway as I was leaving, and the one on the right-hand side of the doorway. And so when I remarked on it to Alex, I said, these look familiar to me. He goes, yeah, that's Haruko's work. They're accurate, and that's why we put them here. This is the council chamber. It has a round table in the middle of it with 13 chairs around it, and this is where they meet. So as we entered the space, the first thing you feel is an energy like, think of the best hug you've ever had and what that would feel like in your core. And the whole time you're in this space, it's just like this palpitation that just, I can't get over the feeling. You just didn't want it to stop. Well, then I could see 4 more beings coming in. And I recognized in my mind who I thought the taller male in the middle was Adama. Now, I'm telling you, the photographs and the illustrations we've seen of him do not do this guy justice, but he was like 9 feet tall, easy. Then there were 2 sets of females flanking him. And as they came closer to the table, they invited me to take a seat. And then 3 of them sat on this side of me and 3 of them sat on this side of me. And one by one, they each told me a little bit about who they were and what they did. Regretfully, I can remember Alex, I can remember Adama, and I remember Shiama, who was the first feminine voice who spoke. I understand these are all members of the council, and they were here to tell me what I was doing there. It seemed as though she kind of chaired the meeting from that point on, because she was the one who would, begin this dialogue. She had said that the Lemurians had concluded that the shift was imminent as well. And in my mind, in July of 2020, I had my research, all the rabbit holes I'd gone on, pinpointed like winter solstice that year. man, everything aligns. It certainly makes sense to me. And so in my mind, that's when I think we're preparing for this transition. They didn't say it was then. They just knew that the changes were coming, and they don't look at things in a linear time way anyway. So they're not going to say weeks, months, years. That's not the way that they roll. They speak energetically. The conditions are right, and we see what's coming from the cosmos, and we see the sun's activities, which is not really the source of these elevated photon energies we're getting. That comes from our central sun. And these are still things we need to teach ourselves about. If this is really coming, where is it coming from? And so I have a really wonderful understanding of how it all threads together now, and it's about to unfold. So she said, with that understanding, they were preparing themselves to re-engage with the surface. They're interested in having the surface know that Telos is a real place and the Lemurians
So
are real beings.
they want us to know.
They want us to know. Yes, it's not a secret. They're not hiding anymore. And the truth is, they could walk by. Well, they can't, because they'd have to drop their density to come into that field. But if they wish to be known, they could be. They just choose not to until humanity's vibration matches theirs. Totally understandable. I've seen what we've done. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd want to hang around here either. If I really lived that we are one mentality, yeah, that's where they are. So then she began to explain, why me? Because I was curious. And she said, well, we know that you're capable of holding fifth dimensional awareness. Now, when she said that, I thought, yeah, I can do that. I know that. Well, I have more appreciation now for what that really means as what I thought I knew then in my little human form. But yes, I can communicate with them. I can understand what they're saying. Second, so that they heard that I was the protector of Gaia. Now, that was a phrase that had been suggested to me in February of 2018 in an ayahuasca session. That's what Mother Ayahuasca told me. No one else had heard that phrase. Had I never uttered it, I never really shared that story with anybody, because you really don't talk about doing ayahuasca yet. But it happened. And the third was that when this re-engagement with the surface takes place, they were starting to reach out for people that were willing to be ambassadors. And clearly, I must have had some Lemurian stake in an earlier incarnation. And over time, that would make sense to me. The more we get in touch with our past lives, and we've all freaking had them, whether we believe it or not, you can start to get in touch with who I was. And when I look at the timeline of my participation here, I was born in 1954. And it totally resonates with me that I'm here with everybody else. They might look different than me, but they're not. They're all connected to me. I already had that preview of where we were going, and it just felt so loving and so unified and compassionate. When I see alterations of that, it makes no sense to me. So I only get comfort out of it because I know, in spite of the chaos going around us, boy, if you hold that space meditatively, it will never fail you. You'll get through all the other crap that the media is spitting at us and wants us to just condition ourselves with. I just see more and more people withdrawing from that mindset. And I have some really close people to me that I've witnessed this change take place, because they were fixed in the way they saw things. They were rather judgmental now that they look at things, but I don't know what happened, Garrett, but it happened. And they've softened. Their perspective has changed. And now, really, the question they ask about circumstances now is, well, does that really matter to me? Instead of, well, I got a solution for you, and here I'm going to tell you what it is, whether you want to hear it or not, because that was very much who they were. It is not those people anymore. So when I recognize
Yeah.
that's happening in the people around me who I didn't think would be privy to reconditioning, I'm being shown that that's totally different. So there's other divine energies taking place and connecting with these people that went beyond my expectations. So I'm just delighted to see more people coming up with tribe mentality. We're aware that these things are going on and they're affecting us too in places where they did not. So I have huge hope for humanity and the timeline of the shift.
Wow. There definitely is a change. I mean, if I can think back to how I was 15 years ago to how I am now, I'm a completely different person, like a personality
Yes.
change.
Yeah. Humans can believe anything, and we have. And you look back at how we were conditioned, our parents were conditioned by their parents, who were conditioned by their parents. And so we understand how we got here and what's been happening to keep us here. Well, somehow we've stopped looking for validation from those sources that we didn't really understand why we were taking their word for it. Now we see a different kind of truth. And we know when it's authentic and genuine,
Hmm.
and that's what lands with us. Nobody said these words, and they said it so many times that I had to believe it. There's a whole different level of connecting
Yeah.
and exchanging information that just feels right. And when you get that aura here, I can understand better with what I put out is what I receive back from the universe in abundance.
Yeah.
Because when that frequency vibration goes out, that's all I get back. I've known that for a while, but I see it happening in these people I was just describing. And when their scenarios go from, man, there was always some kind of drama when I went to this place. The last time they went, guess what? The same people, same place, no drama.
Yeah.
Wow. And at first they would respond with, well, I don't know what happened to those people. I know what happened. You changed.
Yeah.
Your perception of what you saw in that room changed, and you don't see that anymore. Isn't that right? And when they take a beat, they know I'm right.
Wow. I
Yeah.
so I have a quick question that came to my mind during all of this, right? There is a holy mountain in India called Arunachala, right? And they say that the mountain is Shiva, and people go, thousands of people go and walk around the mountain and pray, and it has beautiful presence. Now I'm kind of wondering, is there something going on in that mountain similar to Mount Shasta?
Oh, absolutely, positively.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. There are these energetic places. I mentioned golden tie allotments before. I got connected to Toth in a way I didn't expect to be connected to Toth. And that happened the year after Kumu came on. So he's been in my field ever since. When you hear me say profound things, I guarantee you it's him speaking and not me, because I don't have the wherewithal to come up with these notions and they just land. Anyway, oh, this was taking me to a place and I don't know where I was going. I'm so sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. It's fine. So I mean, so for those who want to connect more with like Mount Shasta, these sites. I mean, another one that comes up quite a bit is Sedona. These vortexes. Can we
Yes.
talk a little bit about the vortexes and how people can connect
Yes.
with them? Yeah.
Yes. After Telos had happened to me, I was interested in the broader scheme of things. Then the idea of inner earth introduces itself to you. And there's the next rabbit hole I was going to go into. Okay, well, let me understand more about inner earth, because their perspective, although Telos is near and dear to all of us that resonate with it, there are other inner earth cities.
Wow.
And if you understand what I understand in all of Shambhala or Agartha, and I say that as the entirety of inner earth, there are, to my understanding, over 120 cities in inner earth, some Lemurian, some not, some humanoid, some not. But all advanced beings at higher levels of intelligence who are here to assist the planet Our visits just happen to overlap theirs, but we've been clueless to anything else beyond what we've experienced in the third dimension because that was the lessons we were learning. If we believe that we are a spark of source and we came to the planet to help it learn more about itself, that's our goal. We came under this duality headset and we had different contracts, soul contracts, right? You have one and you signed up for very specific lessons. They weren't my lessons, though, were they, Gareth? Mm-mm. You have your own journey and your own lessons to compute and contribute back to source so that it learns more about itself. Every experience you didn't have before, what do you learn, Gareth? You learn the good stuff and the bad stuff so you have context. And bless your heart, when that's done, that gets transferred through your soul to all the Akashic records. So thank you, my friend, for all the shitty stuff you had to go through on my behalf, and you're welcome for the stuff I did. That's just the nature of how things are energetically playing out.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So much to comprehend in this conversation. So we'll have to come back and do a part 2.
Well, we will. And I know I've teased people. I'm sure that, well, I'm not sure of anything. I'm just going to say I've got receipts to bring. So look, if we want to continue this conversation and I trigger people's curiosity about light beings I suggested I had photographs of, we can bring those to the party next time. And so when people want evidence, we'll do that, Gareth, because it's time for them to get a little bit more validation of the things that we're all talking about. And that was the reason why they were given to me. It was funny. When Kumu showed me those pictures after the first incident, after showing me them all day long, and it wasn't that earlier in the day when she showed me pictures, I said, can I have that one? She goes, no, you can't have these, but there will be some you can have. When she sent them to me then, she said, these are for your portfolio. And I went, what the hell does that mean? Well, now I know what it means. That when I was going to tell the story about my multidimensional experiences, I had pictures to prove what happened.
Wow.
It wasn't just a story anymore.
Wow.
And I'm not the only one. I'm the first one.
Wow. So, I mean, if people are interested in seeing them on the next interview, they can let us know in the comments down below. I'm sure many people
Absolutely.
would love
Well,
to
it's
see
not
them.
like they're on my website. If you dig through them, you can find them for yourself. But it's always helpful if somebody can kind of narrate what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And we can do that.
We can do that, and I
we're
can.
not through.
Sure,
Val.
sure.
We're not through.
And we can drop them pictures into the actual video to go up on YouTube in
Exactly.
the next one. Yeah, we can edit them in. That would be amazing with your commentary of what we're looking at. I mean, this has been incredible. What an amazing conversation. I'm so delighted that we had you on. And I'm going to link to your website down below and any of your other handles. What else? Where else can people find you, Lowell?
If you just send them to my website,
Yeah.
and really the easiest way to get there is type Lowell Johnson, all one word, .info,
Yeah.
and it'll take you to my cryptic email. There you can find my Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Rumble. All the links to all of those other resources are there on the website too.
I'm going to link to all of them as well. I'll put all individual links in the YouTube video, in the description down below. If you're listening on the podcast, again, just go down into the description. All them links will be there to find Lowell's website and his YouTube and everything else. Lowell, thank you so much. It's been amazing. Really, really amazing.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me. You know, like I said, I've really backed off of doing a lot of this, but there are those that I'm compelled to do. And your audience, when I look through your channel, yeah, they're ready for this. I could see through the other people that have been interviewed on your channel, they all have an area of focus that's important. And I kind of get to see the 40,000 foot view on how their piece kind of fits in right here. We're going to help people bring all this together. You're building an archive, my friend,
Yes.
so that later, when the curiosity really starts to bubble, they can find your stuff. And here's an archive of stuff we don't have to repeat by telling the stories
Yeah.
again. And I'm not afraid to tell it, but my evolution isn't done either. When I thought I was going to tell the Telos story forever, then Kumu came along the next year. Yeah, that kind of puts a different spin on things. Who knows what types of multidimensional experiences you're going to have? I've heard so many varied ones and I've seen plenty of evidence. I'm just saying be open and reduce your fear, because
Well,
there's nothing to be afraid of.
well, I'm going to visit Mount Shasta next year, and I can't wait to meditate on that mountain and see what happens.
Good. It'll be worth it, I promise.
Yeah, yeah. Lowell, thank you so much. You've been amazing. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners. Take care, Lowell. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been the Endless Possibilities Podcast, where the journey of spiritual awakening and energy healing unfolds. Garrett is a lifelong seeker of truth, a spiritual teacher and author, and it's his passion to delve into the profound world of consciousness. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten something from it. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, the podcast is available on YouTube and all the major podcasting platforms. Find us on Instagram at @the_mother_force. Take care, and we'll see you soon on the Endless Possibilities Podcast.